Hey there, Middle-earth Strategy Battle Gamers. So today we're here with another army review, and today we're going to be talking about the War in Rohan Legendary Legions. Very similar to how we did Gondor War. So today it's going to be me and Jason.
What's up, y'all?
And let's get crack-a-lackin'.
Heck yeah.
So we're going to do it how we did it with the Gondor War, where we ranked all of them. I have played most of the Legendary Legions in this supplement, unlike the Gondor War one where there was a handful I didn't play. I played most of the Rohan ones. So
yeah, all the good ones in this are definitely Rohan based.
So fair warning if my rankings seem kind of skewed, because they are. So,
well, I mean, again, it's personal. It's just like the last time. It's how we personally feel like they rank. So even if you have or haven't played them, you're going to have better thoughts based on if you actually have. So it does make sense. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either, because that's what we have favoritism for.
And also, like the Gondor War, I think that all the Legendary Legions in this book are fantastic in terms of recreating the scenes. But in terms of like a match play, that's just kind of subjectively how I look at it.
Right. We'll probably be pretty similar, because when Joe's tested these, he's usually used them against me, and we probably both have the number one as the same, and I would not be surprised.
All right, so you want to get started?
Sure thing, let's do it.
All right, so for number 9, I forgot there were 9. For number 9,
yeah, there's 9.
9, I have the Wolves of Eisenguard.
Oh, imagine that. So do I.
we didn't talk about this at all, guys. By the way, this is basically there are a lot of really cool rules in this Legendary Legion. Like Sharku can declare heroic combat without expending might.
The scouts are pretty cool.
The ambush is cool. But my biggest thing about this list is your only named character is Sharku. Sharku does not have heroic strike. And he's only fight 4. So I know you can get a lot of numbers in this army. You can probably get a pretty good chunk of riders in this list. I just feel like for me, if I versed it, once you take Sharku out, the rest of the army would go down pretty easily. And they don't get any kind of bonuses because of Sharku.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think good.
Yeah, they're you probably, I don't know. I don't think you would get as many models as you think, because army composition, like Joe said, Sharku on a war is your only named hero. Then you have Orc Captain on a war, and you can upgrade it with a bow or a shield. Orc Shaman on a war, and then Warg Riders, and you can give them a banner, a bow, a shield, throwing spears, and then you actually can get Wild Wargs in here too. So maybe you could buff your numbers a little bit with the Wild Wargs, but Warg Riders are multi-point models, and you're going to probably give them a shield, so they're only a couple points cheaper than a warrior. A rider or Rohan.
Yeah, I'm gonna just guess ballpark. If you played around 800 points, you can probably get mid to low 30s model wise.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you want to do it, because with the heroes being cheap, they're heroes of fortitude. I'm pretty sure Sharku is a hero of fortitude as well.
And he's a valor if you take him in this legion, I think.
Really?
Yeah, he's treated as a hero of valor.
Yep, that's it. Yep, it says under the additional rules, yeah. Wolves of Eisenguard force must include Sharku. Sharku is treated as a hero of valor and is always armed as leader. Alright, so he can leave 15. So if you really wanted to truly try and maximize numbers, you could probably take him. A shaman, I would definitely think would be key to take, although they are only a minor, and a captain, and that would let you lead 37 models, if I'm doing my math right off the top of my head. 15 plus 12 plus 6. I can't do math, but yeah. So you could have 40 models if you just took those 3 leaders and then just went straight up numbers wise. So yeah, you could do it.
It's a horde of cav. I mean, honestly, like the thing with the Legendary Legions in this book compared to Gondor War is I think that they're all really solid. Like I think like this list, like granted, Sharku can go down pretty easily to other named heroes, but I think that the fact that you're gonna have a pretty good clump of cav and the fact that you got a lot of mobility in when you do charge and win the fights, you're still knocking people over and getting strength 4 hits on the on the chart to wound. So I think that you could definitely win a lot of scenarios to this list, like capture and control, like reconnoiter. I think in scenarios like Lords of Battle or Contest of Champions.
Contest of Champions, definitely, yeah.
You'd have a hard time.
I agree. I just threw together a quick list of 800 points, and I actually was at 50 models. And I took all War Riders, to be honest. I have 2 captains, Sharku, and then a shaman, and maxed out the war bands. And you literally can max out the war bands. I'm at 798 points, and I've got 49 models.
That's not bad.
That's a heck of a board.
Not bad at all. It's a lot of cav. So maybe that would be one we can play test. I actually wouldn't mind. I would like to see how that plays out because
I've thought about it, honestly.
So that's pretty much what I have to say to that list. I think that, like I said, I think that it could win a lot of scenarios. I mean, honestly, if you're fighting like a orc army or someone with fight 3, you can just throw Sharku in there and call free heroic combats all day, and he's gonna.
Oh yeah, I agree. Pair him up with a captain. That way, if they can both get their bases in there, which could be, it's definitely easier said than done with those big 40 mil bases. You're going to be able to get some good hitting power because they have to get the charge off to get 3 attacks apiece, and then they're going to be strength 4 with the wargs, or I think the heroes are also strength 4. But yeah, so you're going to have some really brittle heroes. Maybe just the sheer numbers, and with those big bases, you could really pinch up a certain location as well, and a lot of mobility, like Joe said.
One thing to say too is you got a lot of horde of cav, but you also got warg riders. So if the rider dies, the warg can stay and fight. So I think actually breaking this army would be pretty difficult.
Yes,
that'd be
so.
A good thing.
Real quick, we'll just run over the additional special rules. So I already talked about how Sharku is going to be a hero of valor. The other additional rule is friendly models gain the Eisenguard keyword. Additionally, any orc shamans in a Wolves of Eisenguard force change their Fury Mordor orc magical power to Isengard orc magical power. So that's pretty key. So usually War Riders, even in Isengard, have the Mordor keyword. So switching them over to Isengard, I think they would allow them to not have to worry about break check either, because Isengard's bonus. Well, they wouldn't get this since it's an LL. You ignore. So
you'd be fearless though with the shaman.
That's true. Yeah, because I think Sharku has the Isengard keyword.
He does.
Yeah, so that's probably why they're switching it over to Isengard. So you're gonna have that 6-inch Fury bubble as well as Terror. Fearless. So that's pretty good too, because it's going to be a low courage army. So if you have a fearless bubble, you're not really worried about terror armies either.
No, your wargs, like I was saying, your wargs are going to probably stay if you play close, play all your models kind of close. And then you could take quite a bit of shooting because you can give your warg riders bows. 50 models, you can get a pretty good chunk of bow shots.
Yeah, 15. I mean, I just upgraded them all. I gave some of them throwing spears. I didn't even look at doing when I was throwing this together. I didn't even look at throwing bows. I just gave them shield throwing spears. But if you go bow route, it's actually going to be a little cheaper. So that's pretty good.
I definitely think this one would be really fun to playtest. I think that it's last on my list because I've never playtested it, and kind of the fact that some of the other Legendary Legions have better hero picks.
Lot to them. Yeah.
But
that's strictly why I have it at last as well.
Yeah. All right. So
all right. You want to run over the other special rules real quick, or no?
Yeah, we'll go over those real quick. So, ambush in a scenario that uses Maelstrom of Battle special rule, a Wolves of Eisenguard force may choose to automatically win or lose priority on the first turn. However, if both forces have the special rule that allows them to do this, roll for priority as normal. Additionally, models from this force may charge in the same turn in which they enter the board. They may not normally be allowed to do so. Should a model entering the board in this manner fail a courage test to charge a terror-causing enemy, the model still moves onto the board as normal, but may not charge anything that turn. That's a really solid rule.
Yeah, I really think it is.
And then scouts. At the start of the game, after both sides have deployed, but before the first priority has been rolled, select up to D6 friendly warrior models in this force. The selected models may immediately make a move as if they were in the move phase, and then shoot as if they were in the shoot phase. During this additional move, the selected model may not move within 1 inch of an enemy model, and therefore may not charge. In the scenario where you roll for additional models to arrive, such as those that use the reinforcements or maelstrom of battle special rules, the selected D6 models may roll to enter the board before the first turn of the game, re-rolling any results that would cause them to not enter the board until they come onto the board, and treat each model as an individual warband. So again,
That's a pretty good one too.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good.
You're getting a free movement basically before you even start the game.
Yeah, and a free shot. I mean.
Yeah, if you optimize that too,
So
move 5 inches and shoot.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid. I think that this, like I said, I think that this list is solid. Honestly, I just think that it would be.
Well, is it a top table list? Probably not. But is it going to give your opponent a run for his money and probably win some scenarios that you wouldn't expect? I definitely can see that happening.
Yeah, I can see someone. I can see someone placing with this Legendary Legion, depending on the event and.
Yeah, depending on the event and the scenarios that are there. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to go ahead and list your number 7?
My number 8.
Yeah, your number 8. Sorry.
It's all good. My number 8, and this might be one where you're like, oh, well, I actually chose Patriots Guard for number 8.
Okay.
My thought process behind that is Thaedred is a really good model. Unfortunately, with the fact that he has to charge, he kind of becomes more like a berserker, and you kind of lose control of him. And with his 3 attacks, he's great on the charge, getting him up to 4. But after, like I said, once you get into combat, he becomes very unpredictable and a little bit hard to control. There's no ability to really pull him away from combat. If he's in range to charge, he has to charge. Helm, I think, is a great model as well, especially since you can put him on a horse. His ability to run around and use his throwing spear of death is great, but you have really only one striking model in this list, and that's Thaedred. And like I said, he's kind of an unknown quantity. You can only control so much with him. Helm can't use strike, and then the other named hero on this list is Grimbold, and we all know that Grimbold can't be mounted. So you're talking about 2 named mounted heroes, and then captains of Rohan. You got some ability with like Rohan Outriders in the list to have some good 3-up shoot value, and movement where they can also stay and hold objectives. That can do a really good job holding objectives. And of course, Rohan Royal Guard and Riders Rohan and Warrior Rohan. We all know what they can do. Royal Guard is nothing to laugh at on foot or mounted. I just feel that with the other lists, with the other Legendary Legions in this book, this one, other than the Wolves of Eisenguard, has the fewest tools when it comes to big hero name power and killing power.
So, I actually have this one a little higher on the list. It's actually my number 7. But I think I agree. I think, so we talked a lot about Thaedred in our Rohan army review, and I think he's a really good kind of missile piece. He can go in there and go ballistic and do his thing. Your force, one of the special rules for your army is it does get Swarm Protector for Thaedred.
Yes.
And then your Royal Guard and your Riders and your Captains treat Thaedred like he is Théoden. The Arise Riders of Théoden rule, they gain that rule.
So they're going to get their bonus to their fight value when they charge.
Yeah, and I think those things for me make it a little bit better. My number 7, my number, I had a pencil in my thing, because I thought there were 8. But my number 8 is actually different than yours. My number 7 is the Patriots Guard. Again, it's a list that I think can do really good. I think that it can win a lot of scenarios because you can take an X amount of cav. You can take You're probably gonna have a pretty good model count because
Warriors are cheap.
Elfhelm's cheap. Thaedron's pretty cheap.
Yep.
I just think that my top 1, 2, and 3, you guys will see later on. But I agree with you. The one character who can strike is Thaedred, and honestly, there are a lot of pieces I would have reservations sending him against.
Yeah.
Honestly,
there's a lot of heroes out there. I mean, it's great that he gets that Riders of Thaedred, where he gains the Arise Riders of Thaedon special rule for the Warriors and the Riders of the Royal Guard. However, again, he's only got 1 point of fate and 2 wounds. So if he has to go into combat when he's in range to charge. And I mean, you could maybe say, I'll play it safe and keep him back. 12-inch range for the Arise Riders of Thaedon special rule, 10-inch movement range. You don't got a lot of overlap there to get your guys up to fight 4, fight 5, which is what you really want. So you have to have Thaedon in combat, and you have to probably pair him with either a captain on horse or Elfhelm, because he's going to outrun Grimbold. Grimbold's great at killing things, but unfortunately with Grimbold not being able to carry a horse, you're not going to be able to get them in there together. He's a good killer, don't get me wrong. I'm just worried that first turn of combat, you could do a lot of damage with him. It's the subsequent turns where you have less of the ability to control what he's doing that I would be worried about.
Yeah.
And you give up, that's your leader too. So if he goes down, that's the rule. He has to be included, and he is the army's leader. So it only takes, a couple lucky strikes to wound him. Now you've given up VPs, and then another extra strike or 2, and he's dead, and you've lost your special rule Riders of Thaedred. So that's kind of why I put it down at 8.
I think that it has a lot of cool rules. I think that I agree, man. In a normal Rohan army, Thaedon's gonna be your leader, and him and Thaedred match up pretty much pound for pound stat wise. But the fact that he has to charge if he can. He can get baited out pretty easily.
Agreed.
I just think that Dane has a similar rule, but Dane is Dane in terms of having to charge once he kills a model.
A lot more hardy. Yeah,
he's a lot more hardy. So for me, it'd be if I have to fight a Witch King on a Fell Beast or a Gulavar, some kind of assassin model, and if they can just get in there and 1 turn kill him, then I think your army's toast.
Yeah. The other special rule that they have cool is the fight in the ranks, and that's where the Rohan infantry models can use their throwing spears to support each other like a normal spear. Now, if you use it as a throwing spear in a turn, you can't use it as a spear support, but that's something that War and Rohan actually introduced, was the ability for them to use throwing spears as a spear support in these legendary legions, and there's one other one that doesn't. We'll get to that one in a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my my number 8 pick is actually the Assault, the atop of Helm's Deep Legendary Legion.
Okay. The Assault on Helm's Deep, the evil one.
Yeah, the Urikai, the Horde of Urikai.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that this Legendary Legion, again, I think all the ones in this book are solid. Unlike Thunder War, where I think there are a few that kind of lack. The big reason why I put this one low on the list is similar to the Wolves of Eisenguard, is that your leader is going to be a captain. Yes, he gains a characteristic. He gets 3 wounds and 3 attacks. Yeah, but he's still just a captain at the end of the day. He doesn't have the ability to strike, and I think that you're going to have a crap ton of models in this list. A lot of Urikai.
Yeah, one of those special rules is the Eisenguard hordes, and that allows all hero models to increase their warband size by 6.
Yeah, so your your captains essentially become heroes of legend, and the warband size they can, which is great. I think that I've actually seen a few battle reports with this legendary legion, and the fact that your heroes can't strike really makes the difference.
Yeah, that is probably the issue.
I watched it was actually the Dunland Isengard or the Dunland Legendary Legion. A player was playing them, and then it was Isengard Legendary Legion, and they versed each other. And the Dunland heroes were able to pretty much mop the floor with the Urikai. There's not much.
Surprising.
So yeah, it has some really cool rules. I'll go over that real quick. And I've actually this one and the Wolves of Eisenguard I have not played. I have played I've essentially played the Patriots Guard when we played the
narrative scenario. Yeah. I haven't played this one either. I have considered playing it. I've played against something similar. We used to have a guy, Alex Chieftain, who was part of our group, and in the old rules, when heroes, just regular captains could strike. This is very similar to a list he played. He would play with 3 Urikai captains, and then the typical loadout with warriors and berserkers, and he usually had a troll in his list. Now he didn't have the ballista or demolition team, which are options to take with the Assault Upon Helm's Deep Legendary Legion. But I played against something very similar, so I can say from experience, it was really powerful, especially under the old rules, like I said, where the captains could strike, because I'd be going up against fight 5 captains, and they'd be taking down my heroes like Imrahil, because I'd roll a 1 on my strike, and he'd roll a 4 and be higher, and end up winning on a 6 and dealing a lot of damage, because those captains are very strong at strength 5. So I think the new rules kind of weaken the power from this list, since you can't strike with the captains. But the thing that makes up for that is the fact that you can take the demolition team and the assault ballista to kind of mitigate that. So, Joe, you said you were going to go over the special rules. Go for it, bro.
Okay, so the first one is Friendly Isengard. The name of the rule is you don't know pain, you don't know fear. Friendly Isengard models do not start to take courage tests for being broken until they are at least 66% of the force's models have been removed as casualties. So it's the same old Isengard army bonus, basically.
Yeah, that's a good one, too, especially, like you said, you're going to be able to hoard these guys out, probably.
Then there's the commander of the Urikai captain. The Urikai captain chosen as your leader increases their attacks and their wounds characteristics to 3 each. Isengard hordes. Hero models from this force increase the number of models they can include in their warbands by 6. You can't take a shaman, so that means your shaman becomes a hero of fortitude, basically. But I think a shaman would be worth taking.
I would definitely take one, just for the terror bubble again.
Let's see. Break walls. Okay, this is the big one for this one. Isengard Ballista from this list may reroll to hit and scatter during the shoot phase. Additionally, whenever a demolition charge from your army is detonated, you may roll 2 dice rather than 1 and pick either result.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think that the demo charges are pretty underlooked.
I agree. I can tell you for a fact they're underlooked. I have seen my Imrahil blown up by one.
Yeah, and then Derek lost his Elrond to one as well.
Yeah, probably the exact same event that we went to.
Yeah, it was. So, basically, I think that if you're going to take this list, you take probably 2 to 3 captains, a shaman. It depends on the points values. This is just kind of how I see it.
Right.
I would probably take a troll because he's fight 6, and I think since your army doesn't have strike, I think he'd be worth taking at least 1 troll. I would probably take a handful of berserkers. I would take 1 demo team, and I would, again, depending on points values, I'd consider taking 2 ballistas.
So I threw together a quick 800 point list. And so the model count is a little bit lower than you might think. I'm at 39 models, but I've got 3 captains, a shaman, the assault ballista, like you said, a demo team, a troll, 4 berserkers. I maybe want to look at buffing those numbers, and then 3, 6, 9, 24 warriors, and then we're split between shield and pike. I didn't give anybody crossbows because I figured that's what the assault ballista will take care of for my shooting. So just try and get my pike block as big as possible.
Yeah, and I
And
think
have the captains in there.
I think
And I'm at 39 models, so
it's not bad. I mean, honestly, for 800 points, that's about average for most.
that's pretty good.
For most elite armies. The
Yeah.
one biggest drawback would be like, okay, you have to fight 800 points worth of Ministerith with Elisar, then I think you'd have a problem. But
Yeah, I think the thing that I would try to do to mitigate that would be that's where the assault ballista comes in.
The assault ballista, or you try and just blow them up. Just out
Yeah. Yeah, just because the fact that you can roll 2 dice when detonating. So for those who have never used it, basically you light it and you go off. You roll a d6. On a 1, it's a dud. So it was no good. I think you get. I think it's changed from the last time, where in the old rules, if you rolled a 1, it was a dud and it was dead. You can't use it anymore. But now I think you get to re-roll the next turn. 2 through 5 is an explosion. It goes off, and everybody within a 2-inch radius takes D3 wounds, and then on a 6, it's a tremendous explosion, I think it's called, and it's a D6 wounds. So, like I said, my Immerhill got blown up because I went against one, and the guy rolled a 6 for it to blow up, and he did 6 wounds. So he rolled a 6, and he went off, and then he rolled a 6 again, and did D6 wounds to everybody in there, and I think I had Immerhill and Forlong. So, yeah, I have this one a little bit higher just because I've gone against this kind of combo already before. This was the Legendary Legion, and the guy I was playing against actually had 2 trolls as well. So I've seen kind of what this could do before it was a Legendary Legion, so I have it ranked a little bit higher than Jobaz at 8.
One more reason why I have it ranked lower is the fact that you don't have any cav. So I think you're gonna lose out on scenarios like Reconnoiter or
Destroy the supplies, maybe, because you're going to have a harder time moving.
But I think that it does have a lot of tools. It does have a siege weapon. It does have the demo team. Your captains. You have March, so you can move past.
Yep.
I just think compared to a few the other Legendary Legions in this list, in this book, again, none of the ones in this book I think are meh. All of them are fantastic in terms of I think all of them can win games.
Right, right.
But this one, I just think the fact that you don't have any cav and the fact that you don't have any strikers. You do have a troll, and you can use him to try and mitigate that. But someone like Alex can kill a troll pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. Joe's got incredibly accurate points on that. So no ability to move fast unless you're spending points of might, which are your limited resources because your captains only come with 2 points. Even the Urikai commander, his characteristics are buff to 3 for attack and strength, attack and wounds, but he still has his base 2 points of might. So even in the list, I just talked 800 points. I had 2, 4, 6, 7 points of might in my army, and I'm probably spending one of those right off the bat to do a Channel Fury with the Shaman.
Yep.
So you're talking about 6 points of might for an 800 point list. That's terrible. I'm sorry, 11, because I've got 1 point of might with the ballista. But yeah, so I do agree with that. I have it a little higher again, just because I've played against something similar to this.
Yeah.
And when I'm comparing it to these other lists, so it's subjective, like Joe said at the very beginning.
So that's my number 8.
Yes.
You actually canceled my number 7 out with the Patriots Guard.
Yep. So we talked about that one. My number 7, I have the Army of Dunlin.
Interesting.
Yes, I know, because you played against my Dunland a couple times, and it's done all right. So, Army of Dunland, I like it. It's pretty good. It's one that really got flushed out in this book before they were just part of Eisenguard, and you could take, warriors of Dunland, Dunlanding Chieftain, and then Wildmen of Dunland in the Eisenguard list, but this book actually came out with the Army of Dunlin for Legendary Legion. So it contains Thryden Wolfsbane, and he can take a horse. Also includes Goroth Ironskin, Freda Tallspear, the Wildman Oathmaker, Dunlanding Chieftains, like I just said, Dunling Warriors, Wildmen of Dunland, Dunland Horsemen, Dunlanding Huskarls, and Crabine. So it's a list that has a lot of models you can pick from. The reason I have it low is, again, one of the reasons when we've played, I've noticed that its biggest lacquer is just hitting power from the heroes. The only mounted hero is going to be Thryden, and he's 2 attack base. Yeah, Gorof's great with 3 attack base, but he's only got 2 wounds and 1 fate. And as Joe almost did to me in one of our battle reports, he almost killed my Gorof before he even got into combat. So yeah, he's got the Iron Skin special ability where he can call a heroic defense free against other enemy heroes, but that doesn't do anything for you against defense or strength 3 or better shooting. And only having 2 wounds and 1 fate, he can die with 1 unfortunate turn of shooting. Frida Tallspear is great, 3 points of might and defense 6, so she's a little hardier against that shooting, but only having 2 points of 2 attacks base, and she cancels out Cav, but only if she's in combat or supporting, and because she has a spear, you don't really want to be supporting with her. You want to try and stack your dice where you can. And then the entire army is for the warriors is fight 3. So I think it's a good army. I just think with the fight 4 meta and with a lot of armies out there having 3 attack models or mounted models, especially compared to the other armies in this book, since we're talking strictly these legendary legions ranked against these. The other ones I look at have stuff that can either mitigate their little bit of extra, or they've just got better heroes mounted wise.
So actually, I have this legendary legion is actually ranked as my 4th.
Really? Okay, that's impressive.
I think that because I've versed you a handful of times when you played Dunland.
Mm-hmm.
Your Dunland, it wasn't a strictly Dunland. It wasn't. Okay, okay. I've never versed your Legendary Legion.
Yeah, I haven't played it via the Legendary Legion.
But I've versed. I've versed. I do think Dunland, all the new Dunland heroes are great. I think that Thryden's great. I think that the fact that you can take Cav, great. I think the strength 4. Most of your armies, all your armies, strength 4.
All the armies strength 4, except for the Wildman.
Except for the Wildman and the Creebane.
Yep. And Creebane aren't supposed to be for combat. They're Creebane are your flyers.
Yes.
So that is one of the good things about this list. They have fly. So
I think that you normally also can get a pretty good model count because your heroes are relatively cheap and your units are relatively cheap. I think that it's basically an orc army with strength. It's basically a Mirandan army.
Yeah.
With defense 5.
So not giving Mirandan orc shields.
Yeah, and I think that the Legendary Legion. One of the reasons why I do have it ranked higher than the others is your army. The Legendary Legion bonuses that I think would really help in a good turn.
So the additional rules is Thryden actually becomes a hero of valor in this list, and he is the army's leader. Thryden's a little bit. He's better than I think Daedrid and Sharku when it comes to being a hero. Definitely. And honestly, I would say he's better than that Urikai commander we were just talking about as well, because he's got 2 wounds and I think 2 points of fate, doesn't he?
He does, and AST will.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he's a 3/2/2, which is pretty good for Might Will Fate component, especially for an evil model. But he's a hero of valor, so he's going to be able to lead 15. Their special rule is Death to the Foregod, and that's Dunlanding models gain hatred to Rohan. So Rohan's pretty common, I would say. Not as common as you'd think. There was actually no Rohan armies at all for the Great Battle of Carolinas event in February. And that was a little shocking. But I guess more of a local thing, because we play Rohan a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good rule to have when you go to tournament, because I'm thinking there's this kind of thing in 40K. There was something. I won't go into that. Never mind. But
you good? That's all right. I'm listening.
Basically, here's the story. There was an overpowered army, so then GW released an army to counter that overpowered army, and I'm not saying Rohan's overpowered. But what I am saying is they're very strong. They're really
Yeah,
they're the best cav in the game. This, not strictly this Legendary Legion, but Dunland itself has a lot of counters for cav. This Legendary Legion has bonuses for Rohan. I think the fact that you get hatred for Rohan is solid. It means that your Strength 5 Thryden is going to be wounding Defense 7 heroes on 4s.
Yes.
It means that your Strength 4 Warriors are going to be wounding Royal Guard and Warriors/Riders of Rohan on 4s if they have shield, if the Warriors have shields. So I think it's a really good thing for Rohan specifically. But again, I think that a lot of people talk about how good the Rohan is, but there's only a handful of people that actually play Rohan at tournaments.
Yeah, as I said, we had 26 man army and nobody played any sort of Rohan at all. So it is nice to have that. And to be specific, hatred, we actually got this wrong in our last Legendary Legion review. Hatred, it's reroll ones to wound. It's not +1 to wound. Yeah, someone commented, so I want to give a shout out. I can't remember who it was, but thanks for that shout out to correct us. It is just ones.
It's not as good as I thought then.
No, it's still pretty good. You're basically getting fainting for free.
Yeah.
So
another thing is not strictly for it is strictly for this Legendary Legion, but most of your models have axes, so you can piercing strikes.
Yeah, so you can do piercing strikes, yeah. So there's 2 other special rules. The first one is Dunland War Cry, and that increases the range of banners to 6 inches. So that's pretty good. You're talking about a 12-inch diameter now, being able to reroll. And you're going to have a good amount of heroes. I think if you build this list, especially 800 points, you're going to take Dryden, you're going to take Goroth, Frida, the Wildman Oathmaker, and I would probably even try to squeeze in a Chieftain, because Chieftains are pretty darn good. I think they're only fight 4, but they're strength 5, and you can make them defense 6 by giving them a shield, and then also give them an axe for piercing strike. So you're talking about a strength 5, defense 6 guy. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is. I think that is actually a really good idea, because I've seen Chieftains do some good work. They also have two will, I believe.
They do. Yeah, they're like Condish Chieftains. 2 might, 2 will, 1 fate. So a little bit more ability to not get compelled around. And I would say that's probably the weakness of Goroth, Frida, and the Wildman Oathmakers. They only have 1 will. So having Thryden and a Dunland Chieftain with 2 will apiece makes you a little more effective against being compelled, being transfixed, and maybe some AoE resistance as well for your list.
And then here's the big one for me, the Dunland War Cry. Once per game, at the start of any fight phase, Thryden can declare that he's using this ability. Until the end of the turn, friendly Dunland keyword models within 12 inches of Thryden gain +1 to wound when making strikes.
So that would be really deadly against a Rohan army, because then the hatred gives you the reroll to 1s and then a +1 to wound.
Yeah.
And you're strength 4, by the way. This entire army outside of the Wildman of Dunland, like we said earlier, is strength 4 or better.
And so I think
ignoring Cravine.
Yeah, I think that I think this rule makes this Legendary Legion very viable, because you start talking about armies like Iron Hills, you start talking about armies like Minas Tirith, high defense armies that bank on bank on having high defense. Mm-hmm. I can see if you are able to pair up your fights right and get your heroes in good positioning, I can see you really cracking someone's shield wall with this rule.
Yeah. I think it's good. You really got to be in a good situation, because again, this is a fight 3 army, and the meta is fight 4. And I saw this big when I went to the Fayetteville event. The last round, I was fighting a guy who had similar model count to me, and he was playing Mordor. And I would go into a fight and have 2 dice in it, he'd outmodel me. Several times he was able to surround like my Corsair Reavers I was playing, and he had like 6 dice in the fight, but I throw my 2 and get my 6, and since I'm fight 4, he's fight 3, I automatically won. So to use this Dunland War Cry special rule effectively, I think you have to have very good positioning with your heroes and also your Dunland Huskarls. And the Huskarls get the +1 to their fight value if they're within 3 inches of a Dunland hero keyword. So that's another reason why I think you want to probably try and shoehorn in a Chieftain, because that gives you 5 heroes where you can kind of line them up and get a very large area to get your Huskarls +1 fight value in. Otherwise, +1 wound's great, but if you're if your opponent's rolling hot sixes all day and they've got the higher fight value, you're not going to get to use it. And since you can only get to do it once, I mean that's kind of why I have this list lower. It's a great idea having that. It's like death, I would say, with Rohan, but death is obviously much more powerful. But you really got to be in a situation. So I think it's this bonus in this list in general. You have to be a very good player. Not to say that you can't come in and do very well with it, but you got to be very methodical with how you're moving.
Yeah, so here's why I have this list listed a little higher. So you got infinite amount of cav. You can take any number of riders you want. So you can win scenarios like reconnoiter. You can win scenarios like destroy the supplies, maneuvering scenarios. And then another reason is you got a lot of might. If you take all the named characters, that's 12 might. If you decide you want to take a chieftain, you got 14 might.
Yeah.
That's a ton of might.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You do have 2 strikers, which I think is solid.
Yeah, because Gorolf and Thryden are both strikers, and they both have 3 points of might to do it with.
And I think Freda is a really good pick because she has her ability to negate cav charge and knockdown.
And then she gets a bonus to wound the horses as well.
Yes.
Her special ability to go for the horses.
So I think that this army can win a lot of scenarios. I do agree the fight 3 would be a bit of a problem, but I can say as someone who's played a Morannon Horde, if you start just stacking a crap ton of dice on someone, and they're not winning the fights, and you're winning the fights, you're got a pretty good chance of killing them.
Yeah, especially if it's like a defense 6 army, because then your strength 4 is going to be weak wounding them on 5s, and they're usually paying for that defense 6 with the shield. So
plus the 6-inch banner would help you a lot with your fight.
Yeah.
Fight 3.
I think you could, if you're trying to build it. Since I've been talking about 800-point list, I haven't thrown one together, but if you could get your 5 heroes and 2 banners in,
because your troops are relatively cheap in this list, so
yeah, they're 8 points with a shield. I don't know if I would go big for bows at all. Yeah, I don't even know if I would put any bows in, just because of the fact that you're going to be able to get a good amount of movement, guys, like Joe was saying. You're going to be able to get the horsemen are very cheap, and then Crabine, if you can get 2 of them in there, it's going to be one of those debates. Like, do I have a second banner? So I'd have a 12-inch, range. You'd have 2 6-inch banners, so basically a 24-inch diameter of banners, or do I take a second Crabine to have 2 12-inch moving guys? Yeah, it's got a lot of tools to it. I would like to try and maybe play this Legendary Legion. I just simply don't have any banner guys yet, so I haven't looked into doing it that way. But yeah, that was my number 7. And maybe, Joe, you might be able to convince me to go higher with it. It's just like last time, when your top few, a lot of these picks for me are kind of fluid with what I've seen. So, yeah. And since I've played Dunland a good amount, usually when I've played an army, I'm more reserved to rank it just because when I've lost, I know what I've lost against. And I'm just like, well, it's good, but I lost.
I don't think your Dunland army's lost yet.
It has. You've beaten it.
To who? With who?
Well, I don't remember. I think Helm's Guard or something like that. And then I'm pretty sure Dan beat it.
Dan might have. I don't think I've beat it. You beat my Rangers and you beat my my Helm's Deep Legendary Legion.
I don't know. I thought I lost to you. I don't know. We'll try. We'll have to try another game with it.
Yeah. All right.
So number 6, Joe, take it away. Your turn.
So basically, past this point for me, it was really hard ranking them. But I actually I put my number 6 is the Wildmen of Drunadan Legendary Legion.
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of people are gonna be like, well, why did you rank this so high compared to the other ones? So anyone who's unfamiliar, I actually in last edition played a relatively similar army. I took Gone and a handful of the Wildmen, and granted, they have gone Gonberry and Wildmen have gotten quite a bit. They got like a pretty big point increase.
They really do.
But I still think they're really solid. You got blowpipes with poison. You got three relatively cheap points of might with Gonberry. And you got like Stock Unseen, Hatred to Orcs. You got all kinds of rules with them. And then another reason why this list is ranked higher is because you also have the ability to take all the really good Rohan heroes. Like Théoden, like Éomer, like Elfhelm, Durnhelm, Darrowine. So you can take all the really good Rohan heroes, and then you can take Gonberry and a little contingent, if you wanted to, of Woe's Warriors.
Yeah, I think it's a very good list. I have it one higher than you. We're on 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it at 5, so I'll just be honest. I wanted to put it higher. Honestly, I had it in my top 3 when I originally wrote my lists. But then I went back and was really reading through these, and I realized that, you have to take this is one of the special rules or additional rules. You have to take Gonberry and you have to take Théoden, which makes sense. Because thematically speaking, which is what the Legendary Legions are, this is from the part in the books where Gonberry comes out of the woods of Druidane, and they call them the Kukul people. And they escort the entire contingent of Rohan through the woods so that they don't get ambushed on the road to Isengard. I'm sorry, not Isengard, to Helm's. Gosh, wow. The road to Minas Tirith, so they don't get ambushed and basically slaughtered. So they come in behind the troops that were defending the road by Mordor. And back to topic, you have to take Gonberry and you have to take a full warband, and it specifically says a full warband of Woe's Elves, and he is a hero of valor, so you've got to take 15 of these guys, and that's pretty expensive because they are expensive models. I mean, they're as much as a Corsair Reaver and don't do nearly as much.
So here's the big reason why I have this ranked pretty high. So, I like taking the Théoden's Rider's Legendary Legion. This is basically that Legendary Legion. You just don't get death.
Yep.
But so you got a bunch of really cool rules that help you charge. So
yes.
The first one is Waypoints. At the start of the game, before either side has deployed the Legendary Legion, controlling player may place 3 25mm waypoint markers anywhere on the board. While within 6 inches of a friendly waypoint marker, friendly Rohan models do not suffer any penalties for moving or charging through difficult terrain. It's a big deal.
Yeah, then you're not worried about moving 1/4 inches. And since you're moving through it, you're still going to be able to move through it and charge. Normally, moving cavalry through difficult terrain, you can't. Well, you can still charge, but you don't lose your charge bonus.
Yeah, and this one you can charge through difficult terrain. Kill Orc Folk. Friendly models may reroll to wound when making strikes against Orc, Goblins, or Urikai. Considering how many Mordor armies you see at events, or just kind of evil armies in general, I think that's a really good rule to have, especially if you're fighting a hardy Defense 6 army. This one doesn't get +1 to wound, +1 to strength when you charge.
Right.
You do get Riders of Rohan do not count towards your bow limit, which is a pretty good perk.
Yeah, so that's basically Riders of Rohan.
Yep.
Bonus. Yeah.
So then the last rule, which I kind of just glanced over again and realized how good it is. So no all pass. If during the move phase, models from both sides have declared a heroic move, and a roll-off is required to see which side heroic moves happens first. If they would normally win on a roll-off on a 4+, then they will instead win the roll-off on a 3+. If they would normally win the roll-off on a 1, 2, or 3, they will instead win the roll-off on a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So basically, this gives you an Elven-made weapon bonus where you get... It's fantastic. So If you call
Yeah, I really like that.
yeah, if you call heroic move and your opponent calls heroic move, which they probably will because you're playing mostly cav, they're not going to want you to be able to charge. Then you're now winning on a +1 better, which might not sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal. So as someone who plays a lot of mounted Rohan armies, and someone who's played a variant of this army in the last edition, I think that it's a solid pick. You can win pretty much any scenario with it. You might have a hard time with the Contest of Champions, but that's kind of par for the course with any.
Yeah, with Thaden.
Yeah, but aside from that, you could win Reconnoiter. You could win Lords of Battle. The one thing about the Woes Warriors is they're relatively squishy, so they go down fast. But
yeah, defense 3, I think.
But when I played them before, basically I would charge in my cav, and then they would just start flanking around, and I was getting like 4-on-1s.
Yeah, I can see that
against Oryx, and it was beautiful. Plus, Gondas give you 3 points of might.
Really, he's a 3-might model.
Yeah, he's 3 might. He's a 3-1-1.
Nice.
So,
and the other thing, the Rose Warriors are expensive. They are, they're almost double digit, but they do have poison blowpipes, and that's a 12-inch range, rerolling 1s to wound. So
yeah,
and it's a blowpipe, so it's a strength 3 hit, I believe, as well.
Yeah, it's solid. That's why I think that yes, they're squishy, but they also give you basically 12 shots. 13.
Yeah, 15 shots. Yeah.
So,
I have him at number 5. So you've got him 6. I've got him 5. And again, I just put him there because I think that they have a little bit more ability to do things than the other lists that I've spoken of so far. Because you've got some good heroes. You're talking about Eomer, Dernhelm, Darwine, Thaden. So like Joe said, you're taking the Riders of Thaden, but you have to take Gonberry Gone and 15 Rosehouse Warriors. Well, the total points of that's, I think it's just a little over 200. So maybe you drop, normally where I try to squeeze in Elfhelm and some Riders, maybe I'm just dropping Elfhelm, but taking my normal contingent. I still think it's probably a good idea to get both Dernhelm and Eomer in this list.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then you've got 2 models with 3 attacks. So, I mean, my idea would be Thaden, Eomer, Dernhelm. Those would be my first 3 heroes. Fit in Darwine if I could, because I think it's great to have that free heroic combat. And then take Gonberry Gone, get his 15 Woes Elves that he has to take, and then go from there and just see what I can get. So
yeah, that's pretty much the list I would take too. I just think I think it's a solid pick. I think that it has more pros than cons after playing a variant of it in the last edition.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I said I have it at number 5. I lied. I have it at number 4. I'm looking at my list backwards.
That was my number 6.
My number 6 is actually the Defenders of Helm Deep Legendary Legion.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So the reason I put it there is, Joe and I, you actually played the Defenders of Helm Deep Legendary Legion against me. And I think it's got some good tools with the fact that you've got 30-inch range bows. That's really cool. And then the fact that you can take, Lothlorien models, basically, with Haldir and then Galadrim Captain and then Galadrim Warriors. So you're going to have the ability to get some Strength 3 bow shots, but you're limited to only 33%. I think one of the ways to maybe try and do it is maximize however many Warriors of Rohan you can, and then take your elves. Since this list is kind of a one-trick pony. The fact that you've got an extra 6-inch range is, in my opinion, again, 6-inch range for shooting. You're trying to maximize the amount of shots you can get in whatever list build you are. So you would probably want to get as many elven bow shots shooting 30 inches as possible to get that extra, the extra 1 to your strength 3 over strength 2 bows. So you've got some really good heroes in the list. You've got Aragorn Strider, you've got Thaden, King of Rohan, Legolas, Gimli, Haldir, like I said. I think you have to take Théoden with this list as well.
You do. Haleth,
Yeah. Okay.
Haleth buffs your troops, making them fight 4.
Yep. So you've got the ability to get fight bonus with not only Théoden, but also with Haleth, too.
Yep. And Aragorn gets a bonus.
Yeah, Aragorn. I think it's a good list. It's just another one of those ones that's kind of like... what's one of the ones? What's the one the Assault on Hell's Deep that you were talking about? No cap.
So this is going to sound really hypocritical considering everything I've said about infantry-based armies, but I actually have it ranked really high on mine.
Hey man, it's all opinionated. Yeah, I'm not going to be hypocrite.
So here's why I have it ranked high, and you'll see what place it is later. But I have it ranked really high because A, it has the best heroes you can get in Middle Earth, basically. In that list. It has really good synergy. You got to fight 5 troops. You got the ability to take fight 5 troops for days. You got excellent shooting. So, in my opinion, 30-inch range elf bows and bows in general is like phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it earlier with you almost killing my Goroth Ironskin. This was the scenario against this legion.
You're going to outshoot most of your opponents. I will say there is one problem with this list, and I think it's just the way I built mine. And I think a lot of players are going to build it this way just because of that 30-inch bows. I think a lot of people are going to try and build archer heavy with this list. I think that I think the mistake I made in the list I built before is I had too many archers, or I focused too many of my things on bow shots. I needed to have more fighters in my army, more defense 6 elves, and etc.
So this is the reason why I have it ranked lower. And I mean, we're at 6, so it's not like it's that low. It's middle of the pack. If you break this down, there's 9 legendary legions. It's right in the middle pack. Yes, you do have lots of heroes, but your heroes that you've got are very expensive. Aragorn is very expensive, even with Strider version. Unfortunately, this is Strider version too, so he's not going to have Anduril. Théoden, you can give him a shield, which I think you have to because he's going to be he's going to be the leader. I actually think this is probably one of the best legendary legions or best armies to take Théoden in as the leader because of the fact that you can get Aragorn and Gimli in there and hide Théoden maybe amongst his own guys, very much like the movie, because let's be honest, Théoden hid in the movies, and just kind of bubble wrap him. And if you can do that, you can keep him from getting shot at, so you're not going to give up any VPs. I've already said it, but it's infantry based, so you're not going to be moving very much, or you're not going to have the ability to move very much. So the game that you and I played, Joe, we played to the death. So you made me come to you, and I had to do that because of your 30-inch range. But if it was a scenario where it was, for example, capture and control, we'll just use that one because that's the most common scenario for kind of meeting in the middle. You would not have been able to shoot me as much as you did. I mean, you killed 6 or 7 guys in shooting and almost killed Goroth. But I just see that it's kind of a one-trick pony. Yeah, using Haleth's buff on Aragorn to make him fight 7 is stupendously amazing. I just feel like Aragorn on foot with 3 attacks is not scary. I mean, it scares me, but I look at that list and go, oh, it's Aragorn, but he's on foot. And he doesn't have Anduril. Okay, whatever, I'll just feed you. Because you're still going to be wounding me. If I'm a defense 7 army going against Aragorn, I'm feeding you 2 infantry models a turn and letting you try and burn your free might to heroic combat out of there. And it just doesn't scare me. It really doesn't. I'm more scared of the shooting coming at me than I am anything else. And if you're doing that, your elves are very pointy. They're 11-point models with a elf bow. So I think it's a good list. I agree. It's got a lot of great synergy. As y'all know, I love armies with synergy because fiefdoms is my favorite. I think, unfortunately, unlike fiefdoms, the fact that this list has so many expensive heroes, Gimli and Legolas being chief among them, yeah. it's hard for me to put it any higher than 6 compared to the other ones.
Okay, so you want to go and move on to number 5?
Yeah. Did you do your 6? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. It was the Paths of the Dunland.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. I came after you. My apologies. Okay. I kind of lost the route.
So my number 5 is the Aemir Legendary Legion.
Really? Okay.
Gandalf.
Okay.
So I think that it's a really good Legendary Legion. I think that Amir, most people know, Amir is probably my favorite Rohan man.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Gandalf. I've for years have wanted Gandalf to be able to lead a warband of Rohan because of the two towers.
Right.
So that's great, and I think Erkenbrand is always a great pick. As you guys can
Right.
go look at our, basically my opinion on Aaron Erkenbrand is this. You guys just go look at our Rohan army review.
Review. Yep.
But so here's my chief problem with this list. I think that it's definitely solid. You can definitely do really good with it. But Erkenbrand doesn't have strike. Gandalf and Aemir both have strike, which is great. I think that it's better than some of the other legendary legions where none of them have strike.
Yes.
Erkenbrand giving your guys a courage bonus because of his horn. Again, great.
Yeah, that's huge.
Trying to find it because I remember there are a few things about it I don't like. And I wanted to clarify.
So I'll go over the special rules while he's talking about that. To the king, friendly Rohan cavalry models within 12 inches of armor gain +1 to strength on a turn in which they charge. So that's pretty good. It's the army bonus for Rohan, but it's restricted a little bit, and it does revolve around armor. Look to the sun. Once per battle, so long as Gandalf is alive and in your force, you can declare that you are using this ability at the start of any friendly move phase. So basically the start of your move phase. Until the end of the turn, enemy models that are engaged with or supporting a model engaged with any friendly cavalry models that made a charge that turn suffer a penalty of -1 to their duel rolls. I think this is a really good rule as well. It basically means that you have to have priority and you have to move first. So I see this kind of the way Joe uses death with the Riders of Fate in Legendary Legion, where your first turn, you're going to move in and get the charge off because that's kind of how you want to do it. This is an all cav army again. That's one of the additional rules. All these models are cavalry, and you have to get that. You have to call that first. I think you use that first turn, and that mitigates the fact that you don't have as many heroes. I think that's one of the weaknesses I see in this list is you've got 3 heroes named, and 2 of them, or one of them is really good in combat, being Aemir. Gandalf is not bad in combat. Having an elven-made weapon really helps, especially since he's fight 5, and he can strike. And then Erkenbrand, he's fight 5, can't strike, but getting him to charge at strength, or I'm sorry, not strength 3, with getting him to charge in there with 3 attacks on the charge and 3 points of might behind it, and being defense 7, plus he gets +1 to his strength. Everybody does, because I would obviously try and keep him around Amber. You're going to do pretty good. I think you can do pretty good on your first turn of charging.
Yeah. So here's my big problem with this list. It has pretty much all the good toys that Rohan wants. You got the bow limit. They don't, they ignore bows. The riders ignore bow limit. Your whole army are riders, because you can't take anything but riders of Rohan.
Yep, that's one of the additional rules.
My biggest complaint with this list is actually the fact that you don't have any Fight for troops.
Correct.
So, like, for instance, we were talking about Dunland. I think that if you take Dunland, it's kind of all right because you can take a lot of guys to mitigate that.
Yeah.
Rohan,
well, depending on how you build it, I think if you take with the 5 heroes we talked about earlier, you're going to have a little bit lower numbers than you think.
Yeah, I agree. But looking at this, Gandalf and Aemir combined, points wise, are really expensive.
Yes.
About half your army.
That is the big weakness.
And then you're gonna want to put Erkenbrand in because you're gonna want his abilities. So I think you're gonna want to take those 3 heroes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about half your army in heroes right off the bat, points wise. So then you got that many points. You can take riders. You could probably take. I'm gonna guess you could probably take around 20. You're gonna probably have around 24, 25 models in this list at 800 points. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you got all the good stuff that Rohan wants. You just don't have Fight for troops, and I think once you start fighting armies like Iron Hills, once you start fighting armies like Minas Tirith, armies that have Fight for troops in them. Yes, Gandalf has that ability, but that's once per game.
Yeah, that's why I said you're really going to do it the first turn.
Yeah, and I think that if you verse Isengard, I think it's one of those things where you're gonna have to really, really hope.
You can choose your battles really well.
Yeah, you're gonna pick and choose your battles, and the fact that you don't have a lot of models, and the fact that half your army's points costs are in the 3 heroes. It's just one of those things where I'm like, because don't get me wrong, I wanted this Legendary Legion. Like,
right.
Really bad. I wanted this Legendary Legion, and I remember in my head I was like, well, I hope that, because I remember I was reading through them. I was like, I hope Aemir is like Phaedred, where they give him a Rise Riders of Théoden rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, crap. So that to me is a big drawback. I actually haven't playtested this Legendary Legion. This is like the only Rohan one I haven't playtested. Just because I'm scared of taking it and because I'm
doing badly.
yeah, basically I'm so used to having fight 4 Rohan Riders and
fight 5 Royal Guard in this position. And that's another thing you don't have as well. The Royal Guard or Bodyguard, so you're not worrying about terror. Yeah, the +2 to your Warhorn is great, but all it takes is several low turns of rolling with courage checks and you're screwed.
Yeah. But I think this scenario can definitely win, this army can win a lot of scenarios. You can win a lot of movement-based ones because you're Rohan Cav. You could definitely win, I think, Contest of Champions you could win because I think Aemir is a really solid fighting.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
You could see, I think you could win a lot of stuff. I'm thinking, like, if you have to fight certain armies, that fight 3 is going to really hurt.
Well, I'm not even going to lie. Think about it. So you said it best. You're going to take these 3 heroes. So if you're taking it at low points, we'll say midpoint, 700 points. You're taking Gandalf, Erkenbrand, and Éomer. That's almost 500 points worth of heroes. Maybe not that many. Yeah, it's a good bit because Gandalf and Éomer, just their base cost is 350.
Yep.
And then you're going to give Éomer a shield, obviously, and then Erkenbrand. So, I mean, it's like 450 points worth just for those 3 heroes. And if you're talking about a 700-point army, yeah, that's way more than half.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a Legendary Legion I love because I love that scene in the movie.
Yes.
And I've for years wanted to have Gandalf lead Rohan.
I think if they gave Éomer, maybe so Phaedred got the Arise rule in Phaedred's Guard, which makes sense because he's a heir to he's the heir to Théoden. He's the heir to the Kingdom of Gondor. Maybe Éomer is like second in line after that because he takes over when Phaedred when Théoden dies. Maybe in the turn where it's look to the sun, maybe do a combo with that. Have it be where you have to have both Gandalf and Éomer alive, and you get the -1 to your opponent's duel roll, plus if you charge, you get the +1 to your fight value. So maybe it only lasts a turn. You see what I'm saying? It would kind of keep it thematic because he's the second in line to the throne.
Yeah.
So give him that ability for at least a turn's worth.
I mean, honestly, here's what I would have. I'm not trying to nitpick this Legendary Legion. But I'm just saying, if this would have been probably number 1 or 2 on my list if it had this one rules change. So instead of Aemir giving +1 to their strength, if he gave them +1 to their fight, not all Rohan models, just Rohan troops.
Rohan Cav.
Yeah, just Rohan troops.
Or warrior models.
Yeah, just Rohan warrior. If he gave them +1 to their fight, I would rank this 1 or 2. But the fact that he doesn't. It's basically, to me, it's the same as the. Granted, Gandalf and Aemir are aeons better than Sharku, but it's on the same kind of plane as the.
Wolves of Eisenguard one.
Wolves of Eisenguard.
Yeah, with the fight 3. Well, I played something similar to this before this book came out in Nashville. The only substitution I had was instead of Erkenbrand being in the list, I had Théoden. So same thing, Théoden, Gandalf, Éomer. And unfortunately, since it wasn't a Legendary Legion, Gandalf comes from the Minas Tirith army, so he was a solo drop for me. And I went undefeated in that event. Now, to be fair, one of them was a draw. It was a 2-2 draw. But I ended up with 3rd place, and I would say that, honestly, that army was better than this one because of the fact that I had Théoden and the buff to be able to give my guys not only +1 to strength when they charge, but also +1 to fight value when they charge.
Yeah, and to me, To me, it's like if I was to play this Legendary Legion, which I probably should play test it just to actually, because like for instance, I didn't like Helm's profile when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And then I play tested him quite a bit, and now I love his profile. So this might be one of those things. This might be one of those things where I need to play test it and see if I actually if I can actually do good with it.
Do you agree with it? Yeah.
But I just on a face value, if they swap the rules, riders got +1 to their fight instead of +1 to their strength if they're within 12 inches of Amir. To me, that would be the game changer. But because back in the day, I played fight 3 Rohan, and the fact that you have a low model count and the fact that your fight 3 really hurts, especially against all the fight 4 stuff that is in existence, which there's a lot of. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I brought up that example earlier, where my Reaver with 2 attacks going up against 6 or 7 mortal orcs, I roll a 6, I win. So I think it's great. Although, you don't actually really need it. Now that I think about it, if you're going up against a Fight 4 army, using the Look to the Sun thing actually kind of mitigates the fact that you're Fight 3. You roll a 6, you're winning, because your opponent can't get to a 6, unless they spend points of might.
Yeah.
So that might be a thing. And I said I think on accident, you don't actually want priority. You want to go second, because it's when you move. So just like when you usually do, Joe, when you charge in, you want to be able to, be reactionary to what your opponent is, so you can pick your fights that first turn of combat.
The Look to the Sun ability is once per game.
Yeah.
Now, if there was... I'm just trying to think of ways where... Okay, so let's just say they don't have... Let's just say that Gandalf can call it once every turn, but he can't cast magic, and he has to spend a point of will, or something like that.
Yeah.
To me, that would, if you had to do something like that, then this army would be on fire, I would say.
Right.
Because then he's basically a shade.
Yeah, and
or like he can't.
Maybe what he does is he gives up his ability to get a freebie per turn, because he's spending his freebie doing the Look to the Sun. So maybe he's got like an auto permanent cast Blinded Light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would go to what you were saying, where he can't do spells because he's focused on using his staff to do Blinding Light, which is AKA bring the sun in.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think in those are the only 2 big special rules for this Legendary Legion. The To the King and the Look to the Sun. I think
right.
I think that this Legendary Legion could have, because like it could be better in terms of how I personally want it to be. Because I would play this Legendary Legion over Riders of Theoden if I thought it was better. Because I said, I love that scene in the movie. I love the idea of having Gandalf with my Rohan. But I do have it highly ranked still, even though I've said everything I said, just because I still think the fact that you do have Gandalf, the fact that you do have Aemir, the fact that you have Erkenbrand buffing your troops relatively well, I think that you have the ability to win. I just think as someone who's played a lot of Fight 3 Rohan versus Fight 4 Dwarves or whatever,
it hurts. Well, I mean, and that's what I said. I think, honestly, starting with my number 7 pick of Army of Dunland, I could rearrange 7 through 1. I feel very strongly for my number 9 pick, obviously, with Wolves of Eisenguard, and 8 was pretty close to it with Patriots Guard. But 1 through 6 through 7 through 1, they could fluctuate just based on how I feel that day.
Yeah.
Or if I think about a new situation, a new strategy.
I mean, honestly, a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads when I say what my number 1 was, and my number 2 probably. So that was my number 5.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 5 was the Assault on Helm's Deep, which we talked about.
Okay.
And I see that being pretty good compared to the other ones that I've listed so far. I think the ability to take maybe 2 Isengard ballistas and roll them and re-roll to hit and to scatter is pretty darn good. So, yeah, that was why I had it ranked higher than these other ones. I think it just gives a tool. Yeah, you're right. It's got pretty much useless heroes when it comes to striking, but then you can get a troll or 2 in there, and then a demolition team, which can make things go boom, and then the ballistas. It's got more tools, I think, than some of the other ones. So, but number 4, I had Pass of Druidane, and we've already talked about that one. So Joe, what you got?
My number 4 was the Dunland.
Okay. Yeah, I think you said that earlier. All right. Yeah, and I think you probably have it up there just because, like, I think you might be right. I may be undefeated against you playing Dunland, so I could respect the fact that you have it ranked up there, just based on how it's done against you.
That to me, it's one of those things. Is so it's similar to Horde of Orcs. Yes, you're fight 3. You got a mass of guys, but the fact that you got all of them kind of little bonuses and things, your Horde of Orcs become pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lie. The more you talked about it, the more I'm thinking about it. I'm actually thinking I probably underrated him at 7.
Well, I think it's one of those things. It's like at face value, like I said, I think that it can be solid. I actually saw it beat a top the wall Legendary Legion in that battle report quite handily.
Right. Yeah.
So my number 3 pick then.
So I'll hit my number 3. I'm not to try and interrupt you, just because I think we're probably getting to new armies. My number 3 is the Riders of Aomer. So we literally just covered it. Okay. So I'm just going to spit it out there. So go ahead. My bad. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. All right. So my number 3, and by the way, like I said, my top, pretty much after my 6th pick, my top 1, 2, and 3 could have fluctuated easily.
Yeah, I agree.
My number 3 pick is actually the Lurtz Legendary Legion, the Urikai Scouts.
Okay, Lurtz Scouts.
Yep. Which actually now that the Ugluk Scouts. Okay, so this is actually kind of embarrassing. For some reason, when I wrote this down, I was thinking of the Lurtz Legendary Legion from the new book.
Oh crap! Yeah, so was I. Because I had it ranked pretty high as well.
Okay, so you know what, guys? We're gonna go ahead and put a big asterisk. Yes. So actually, because when I was writing this, I was thinking about the Lurtz Legendary Legion from the Quest of the Ringbearer.
Quest of the Ringbearer.
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing, bro, because I had them ranked up there too.
Because we were just talking about it. I'm like, yeah, you got all the 8-inch movement. Guys, okay, so I have this at number 3, but it's actually not my number 3.
We're have to do an errata.
Yeah, okay, so the list, you can take Ugluk, Mahur, Grishnok, Snaga, Urikai Captain, Urikai Drummer, Orc Captain, Urikai Scouts. Dang it, I really want to top that Legendary Legion too.
That's alright. We'll do Quest of the Ringbearer soon. Quest of the Ringbearer's got several Legendary Legions we can talk about.
So here, we're just gonna go over this. We're just gonna go over the rules real quick. I mean, this would have been above the wargs or below the wargs. Okay.
Actually, no, I don't think I would, because I'm sitting here looking at it, and Ugluk's one is pretty similar to Lurtz's. The difference between it is the fact that you obviously don't have Lurtz, so you're giving up, 3 attack model. But you've got more named characters. You've got Ugluk, Mahur, Grisnak, and Snaga. So you're talking about 4 3-might models. I'm not sure about strikers. I'm pretty sure Ugluk can. Mahur can't. He only has strength, I believe, and March. I think he has March. But they have the same rule that you and I were talking about earlier, because Joe and I were talking about Lurtz's, and that's the pace is quicken, and that allows Mahur. If the army includes Mahur, the Urikai Scouts in your force may be upgraded to Mahur's Marauders rather than just the ones in his warband, and the upgrade is free. Additionally, Ugluk, Urikai Scout Captains, and Urikai Drummers increase their move to 8. So basically, you get the free 8-inch movement if you take them, which I think you have. Your 2 troop types are Scouts or Warriors, so you're probably going to take Mahur because he's got 3 attacks. I think you would be a fool if you don't. And then you're going to be able to upgrade all your guys to movement 8, all your scouts to movement 8, as well as your leader being Ugluk, scout captains, and Urikai drummers. And that's kind of how Joe and I were talking about for the Lurtz one earlier. I think the difference between the two is maybe the fact that, again, you lose Lurtz, so you lose that 3 attack model. But yeah, go ahead. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, after reading it, it's similar to the Kirith Ungol one, where your orcs get bonuses if they're fighting in the same fight as Urikai.
Yes.
And vice versa.
To the wound. Bonus to wound, yeah.
I mean, I think Ugluk's, he's a better pick than, like, not Shagrat. He's a better pick than Sharku for, like, a leader, because he actually has strike. He's a higher fight, too, than...
yeah, he's fight 5.
Yes, you don't have any mounted heroes, but you got really fast-moving warriors.
Yep. I mean, think about it. So, I mean, this is something Joe and I talked about. If anybody's not thought about this, so you got scouts. They move 8. Take a drummer, sound the drum. You move 11. Do a march. Got 3. You're moving 14 inches. So yeah, you don't have cavalry, but you're moving 14 inches. So what do you care? You're
Yeah.
moving farther.
So you're talking like scenarios where this list would lose, like reconnoiter. All of a sudden, you're winning reconnoiter.
Yeah,
You're gonna
reconnoiter, seize the prize, hold ground. Yeah,
even in scenarios like Lords of Battle, where if you're fighting an elf army with a lot more bows than you or whatever, hobbits or whatever, the fact that you can close so much distance to get to them would help you out.
Yes, and that's
I
big.
actually forgot what Snaga does. I know that Grishnok's like a 3. They both have some cool rules. Let's kind of look over here.
So Snaga has he can only include orc models in his warband, which is cool because the additional rules say you have to take Ugluk's leader. Orc heroes can only lead orc warriors, and Urikai heroes can only lead Urikai warriors. So Grisnak and Snaga are both orc captains, so those two can only include orcs. But his cunning mind special rule is Snaga can choose not to take part in a friendly hero's model's heroic action and still be able to act as normal later in the phase, even if by not participating as part of a heroic action, he would normally not be able to act that turn. Additionally, if Snaga chooses to participate in a friendly hero model's heroic action, he does not have to remain within a specific range of the hero. So that's pretty good because basically what it does is if you do heroic march or heroic movement, he's not bound to stay within 6 inches of whatever other hero called it, and or he just doesn't move at all and can move later on.
I'm not gonna lie to you. So when I first flipped over to the page, I looked over at his he has heroic challenge, and then I looked to see what his fight value was, and there was a glare on my paper, and I thought it said fight 6. I'm like, what? And then I moved my book. And I was like, oh, fight 4. Yeah, no, he'd be a good pick. I think he could be good. He has 3 might. You get a lot of might in this legendary legion, which is good.
Yeah, I mean 3, 6, 9, 12 if you take all 4 of the named heroes.
So, yeah, I think it's a good pick. It's definitely not my number 3 pick.
But
it's definitely a good pick. You got some choice.
I had it at number 2 because I was thinking Lurch as well.
So maybe going cross.
Oh man, I feel dumb.
Okay, so moving on.
But it's a pretty good army. I still think it's definitely not number 3 army. If I had to do a quick look over it and see where I would put it, I think I put Riders of Aylmer above it, so maybe Riders of Aylmer becomes my number 2. Probably would put it above Pass the Druidane as well. Put Pass the Druidane above it. Honestly, I don't know. I still think it could beat the Assault on Helm's Deep list. So maybe number 4 for me. Maybe I just have it 2 spots too high. Because I do think that ability to move 14 inches in a turn, if you do all those combos, it can be really, really deadly.
I agree. So my number 2 pick is one that you were probably not surprised about.
Okay.
That's my Helm's Guard, Legendary Legion. Number 2.
Nice, okay.
So I've played quite a few games now with the Helm's Guard. Most recently, I versed Jason's Corsairs with him.
Yep.
So the first game I had,
made me want to quit Corsairs.
The first game I had with him, I versed his Easterlings and Cond, and he beat me. And it's kind of that thing where I was like, well, the biggest flaw with the list is Helm is the biggest piece in the army, and once you control him, you can control the army, which I still think is true. But after playtesting it with a certain build, I think that this is a really solid Legendary Legion.
Yeah. So that's impressive that you have it at number 2.
Yes. So I'm trying to find his the Legendary Legion here. Where's it at?
It's at the very back.
Okay.
It's in the appendix because it's like an appendice legendary.
Right,
no, you have to have Helm in your hand, obviously.
Yep.
And he's going to be the leader.
Yeah, so you got to have Helm. You got defend the Soothburg. Friendly Rohan infantry models armed with throwing spears may use this as a standard spear in addition to normal So it's the same rules as other. You can use it as a spear, or you can use it as a throwing spear. You can't do both in the same turn.
Yeah. We glossed over it. We forgot to mention, but the Defenders of Helm's Deep Legion can use this as well.
Yes.
So there's actually 3. I said there's 2, but there's 3. The Patriots Guard, Defenders of Helm's Deep, and then Helm's Guard can all have their warrior models just throwing spears as spear supports, which is really cool, I think.
So the when I play tested with Jason the second time, I gave quite a few guys throwing spears, and I had quite a few. I took Outriders on foot with bow, and the ability to throw spears and shoot. It had a lot of projectile weapons. It was really good.
Yes, yeah. You devastated me with your shooting.
Okay, so then here's the big rule. The King of Rohan. Helm Hammerhand gains the Mighty Hero special rule, so he gets a free point of might every turn. Additionally, Helm Hammerhand may declare a heroic combat each turn without expending might. So Helm basically gets 2 free points of might
a
turn. He himself is a monster in terms of his ability to kill things.
Yes.
So
I mean, he's got a war horn, so your army's going to get +1 to his courage. If he charges, he causes terror, just like Dane. He's got a 2-handed sword, and he's burly. Yeah, he's
strength 5.
He's strength 5. Yeah, let's just put it this way: on horse, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, he is.
He's just unstoppable.
His biggest flaw is he's fight 5.
But you got a free point of might to call a strike if you need to.
You do. But I'm kind of thinking heroes. So he's the most expensive Rohan hero in the game.
By far, by done. Yeah,
as he should be. I'm thinking heroes like Gil-galad, heroes like Aragorn, other big mighty heroes.
Yeah.
Could probably.
Yeah,
they could stop him. But pretty much any mid-tier, like lower to mid-tier hero, I think he could mop the floor with them pretty easily. Basically,
you did pretty darn good again. Even though you quote-unquote lost against my Easterlings, he still wiped the floor. Helm was the piece for you that did it. I mean, the rest of your army was not as good, but your new build that you had when you played against my Corsairs, like you said, you taken the extra throwing spears and stuff, mitigated that. I feel like at 6, because we played at 600 points, you had maximized the army at that point. I'd be very interested to see what you could do at 750, 800 with it as well.
Yes, here's basically my 600 point list. So basically, you have to take Helm, and then you could just take Captains of Rohan, or you could take a King's Huntsman.
I would never take a King's Huntsman.
I take the King's Huntsman. I've taken the King's Huntsman in a few practice games, and he normally just kind of is meh at best.
In that Easterling game, he shot twice and missed both times. So
yeah,
that's a waste of 50 points.
That's basically how he goes. But I took two captains on foot. My original list, I took a lot of mounted heroes. I took a lot more mounted heroes, or not heroes, mounted troops.
Models, yeah.
Yeah, and my second one, I took Helm in a contingent of Royal Guard on horse.
Yes.
And I took the rest as infantry.
Yes.
And I like that build better because you get a lot more models, and your hard-hitting units that you're going to have anyway are still the hard-hitting units. I think it can win against a lot of armies. I think it could win against a lot of... Here, how should I word this? I think Helm can win against most armies. He can easily take out a lot of mid-tier heroes.
So I think the thing that you hit on well in those 2 practice games is I thought I had a good horde amount at 40 models with Corsairs at 600 points. You walked onto the table with 46. So I feel like this is a legendary legion where you have to hoard it out, do exactly like you said, use your Royal Guard to basically be what they are. They are the Royal Guard contingent for Helm, and Helm has the ability to get +1 fight value to models within Rohan warrior models within 6 inches of them. So you've got your fight 5 Royal Guard, which is really huge. So you're going to be able to get your bodyguard charge in against terror armies, and it does. And the +1 to your fight value isn't dependent on you charging as it is with Rohan. This is just Oh, am I within 6 inches? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm fight 5 now. And that was actually one of the things that screwed me when I tried to go make a big play against you. Is I forgot that they were fight 5, and I lost the roll off against one model. So and then you just had basically a very, very cheap sword and shield wall with Warriors of Rohan. Yeah, they're only defense 5 with a shield. Okay, whatever. They're like 7 points. They're ridiculously cheap.
Once you start, it's kind of like what I was talking about with the. Excuse me. Say what I was talking about the Dunland. Once you start stacking dice on people.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you did against me. So, like I said, I'd be very interested to see what you would add on to go from 6 to 700, and then from there maybe 7 to 750, 750 to 800. I think the only thing maybe that I would change is you had your heroes on foot. If I were to go from 6 to 700, my first upgrade would be to put my 2 captains that you had on horseback. So
yeah, that's probably what I would do. It's definitely Legendary Legion I want to playtest more. It's number 2 just because I think that Helm is pretty unstoppable. Like he would mop the floor with most of the Legendary Legion leaders, quote unquote, in this book. I think that my number 1 pick would give it a hard time just because of the heroes that are in it, which is one you already covered.
Mm-hmm. I think, having played it, the only time I quote unquote stopped Helm was in the Easterlings, and all I did was just feed Helm a bunch of guys. And when I won, I struck to kill his horse. And I think he's got horse lore, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah,
that's one. You lose his horse in the first turn when we versed the first game or the second game.
Yeah. That's the only weakness I see for Helm. For some reason, he was given 1 fate point, and I don't understand why. I feel he should have had at least 2, because the only reason he died was he went and snuck out during the long winter and went and killed Dunland guys. I can't remember. Was it Braga or something like that?
Freka. I remember.
Freka, that's it. Yeah, he went out and killed Freka, and he froze to death. So I don't really think that's worthy of him being 1 fate. I think he should at least be 2. That would be my 1 weakness for him. But like I said, with the fact that he's fight 5 already, he's got a free point of might in this Legendary Legion. So you can either move him for free, or you can strike for free. And if you move for free, and you have him fighting, infantry, or maybe even other CAD models, strength 5, 2-handed weapon, burly, you're going to be wounding most things on 4s, if not better.
Yep.
So
he's literally a beast. I played this another reason why I might have this ranked so high is because I have played this one more. This is probably the one I played the most out of all the Legendary Legions.
Well, I'll be honest, since I already covered my number 2, which unfortunately was not number 2 anymore with the Ugbook Scouts. I have Helm's Guard as number 1, just because of the fact I've played you 3 times against it. You mopped the floor with me in 2 of them, and I won the 3rd. But it's not like I went after your main hero. I won by playing the objective in that game, and then trying to basically just feed Helm. And in that first game, I had the numbers advantage, so I could feed him. I think in a rematch, you probably know now that you need to go ahead and hoard it out with the Chief Rohan Warrior models, and you would have the numbers, so I wouldn't be able to feed Helm. So I think it may be a different situation if we were to replay that game.
So my number 1 pick's the Helm's Deep Legendary Legion. And after thinking about it, I might be lower. I don't know. When I was writing it, because I still think that the 30-inch bows, the fact that you could take pretty much any mighty hero you want in there.
Yes.
And you can still take a horde of guys. I know that it has some issues, but I'm kind of basing this on Tom Carroll plays first at our event with him.
No, he did not actually.
He didn't?
No. He lost round 3 to round 3. And this is the issue that I brought up earlier. It's going to be a low model count army because of the fact that you've got a lot of expensive stuff. And that event that you're talking about, he had 30 models and 800 points, and he went against Goblin Town and to the death. And even though he's murdering these goblins, And he used the terrain very well. He deployed up. It was the Rohan board that I have with the big tower, and he deployed a lot of his heroes and stuff up there, and was shooting down at them. So making the little goblins go 5 inches across the board to get to him. Yeah, he lost that game, and I think it was a major loss, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's one of those lists where you got to playtest it a lot, but I think it's one that once you kind of master, like I think you need to get a perfect build. You need to have the perfect amount of points invested in heroes. You need to have the right model count, because I do think you probably need to be in the mid-30s with that model count. I think once you get practice with it, I think it'd be a really solid one, just because you got tons of tools in it.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I spoke wrong. He didn't lose that game. He tied it. Okay. So technically, he was undefeated with it. He took second place just due to the fact that the wins he had with it were not major wins. He had 2 minor wins and a draw, which is in a 3-round event. That's 3-3 and 2. So that gave him he got 8 tournament points, because we do our scoring 4 for a major, 3 for a minor, 2 for a draw, 1 for a minor loss, and 0 for a major loss. So he had 2 minor wins and a tie. And so he got second place because of that.
Well, so like here's kind of my criteria for it. So I think, granted, I've said this a lot. I think that having mounted heroes or mounted models in a list is a big deal. For objective-based scenarios like reconnoiter, storm the camp, etc. You do have Aragorn, who has March, which is the only kind of movement you got in this list.
Yeah, and he can call that for free too. Yep. Excuse me, he can call that for free.
Yep, you can outshoot pretty much anyone in the game with 30-inch bows. You have great combat units with Fight 5 elves, and you can take a horde of Rohan. You got health buffing guys. You can pick. I think if you're going to play this list, you either need to pick Legolas or Gimli. You shouldn't take both, or you could not take either and take Haldir. That's kind of the way I see it.
Right.
So I think it has a lot of potential, a lot of different builds you can take. And it's one that I've had one practice game with it against you, and I liked playing it a lot, and I think it could do really good. I think first place material, but it's getting that right build with it. I think in my original build, I had too many points invested into heroes, which I think.
Well, and see, we played a 600-point list or a 600-point game, so it was the battle report we did with the legendary legion of defenders of Helm Deep against Eisenguard, which was primarily my Dunland force, where I had a few Eisenguard guys allied in. And 600 points, I feel like this is one where you're really, if you're going to play it at 600, you're going to get like 2, maybe 3 heroes. And that would probably be for me, Théoden, Haleth, and Aragorn, just so I can have Haleth giving Aragorn that +1 to his fight, and maybe squeeze in Haldir, since you said take Haldir over Legolas or Gimli. At 600 points, that's how I want to do it, because with Théoden being a legend, and Haleth is an independent, so he can be brought in with Aragorn, who's a Valor. You could maximize your warbands that way, and then I think you have to take Haldir in order to take elves. I don't think this is one of the ones where it restricts you. I think you can take elves in any of the warbands, right?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember. The other thing is you can only take 33% of the elves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't say that. So I think, you can. A defender, all models with this can enter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you could have Théoden leading elves or Aragorn leading elves. I think this list would be very deadly, very scary at like 700, just to have that extra 100 points to really maximize troops. And then 800, I think it could be really devastating, because then you could really get all those little individual heroes in there that can give you the ability to get that synergy.
Yeah, I agree. I think the higher the points, the better this list becomes.
Yeah. So I would be interested to see it at an 800-point event, or just an 800-point practice game.
Yeah, me too. That's basically it. That's my number 1 pick. We kind of already hit that. We hit the Helmsguard pretty good.
Yep.
So that's my list.
So in recap, I'll run through mine again, and I made a quick edit having an Ugluk Scout. So for me, number 9 was Wolves of Eisenguard. Number 8 was Patriots Guard. Number 7, Army of Dunlin. Number 6, Defenders of Helm Deep. Number 5, Assault on Helm's Deep. Number 4, Ugluk Scouts. Number 3, Paths of Druidae. Number 2, Riders of Eomer. And number 1, Helm's Guard.
All right. Mine was number 9 was the Wolves of Eisenguard. Number 8 was the Assault on Helm's Deep. Number 7 was Patriots Guard. Number 6 was the Paths of the Wildmen of Druidan. Number 5 was the Eomer Legendary Legion. Number 4 was the Dunland Legendary Legion. Number 3 with a big old fat asterisk was the Urikai Scouts. Number 2 was the Helm's Guard, and number 1 was the Helm's Deep Legendary Legion.
And I might have to rethink my number 7 with Army of Dunlin. I think you've done a good job convincing me that it's probably better. It's probably better on here than the number 7 compared to these other legendary legions.
Well, I might have been convinced that the Helm's Deep might not be one. I do think that I'd like to playtest it a few more times at a higher points value.
Yeah.
But
well, and that's why I think, to me, I think it's very good. And I'm not going to beat it because I just said all this. I'm not going to beat around a bush with it. I think it's very good. I just think it needs to have a higher points value in order to do good.
Yeah, I concur. All right, guys. Well, stay tuned. We'll do Quest of the Ringbearer next.
Yeah, that should be a little shorter because I think there's only 5 legendary legions in that one.
So if you guys want to see more of our content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Later.